He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the Palatial yet not overly ostentatious studios of 365 Sports here in beautiful New York City. Welcome on into a Tuesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show right here on 365 Sports. You could always get on at me on the good old cesspool of Twitter or on Instagram where I'm straight flexing at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. And you could also follow me on TikTok at the Zach Gelb Show. If you are watching us live via YouTube, just press the subscribe button right now to our 365 Sports YouTube page and our channel here. And if you're consuming us after the live show, whether it's in podcast form or you're watching us archived right here on YouTube, youtube.com/at 365 Sports YT, youtube.com/at 365 Sports YT. Subscribe. Garrett Ross back in our Waco, Texas studios, and away we go for the next 2 hours or so. Ari Temkin does a great job for Big 12 Radio. He's going to be stopping by in about 30 minutes from now. We will talk about Iowa State's huge victory last night over Houston. We will delve into the ridiculousness of the whole Jerome Tang situation as he's out at Kansas State. But now they're trying to void the $18 million that they owe him. Okay, you're trying not to pay him. Well, what was the nefarious act that Jerome Tang did? Well, all he did was just light his team up at the podium and say that most of them won't be wearing Kansas State jerseys next year, and also saying that basically they quit on the basketball team and on the program. So that's pretty much where we're at in terms of basketball with the Big 12, some Darren Peterson things as well. And then you get to the football world. There's always things to talk about 365 days out of the year when it comes to college football and also college football in the Big 12. But let's start with the NFL. Today is the start of the franchise tag window opening up right at 4 p.m. Eastern time. By some point where we do say goodbye to you, because the franchise tag day, it used to be like exciting. There used to be a bunch of players that got tagged. With how high the money is just for 1 year of salary per position, and as they average them up between the top 5 or 7 positions, and then, highest paid people at the position, and then that's the number that you get for the year. There's not going to be that many people that I anticipate being tagged, but we'll run through the list and we'll talk about some people that could be tagged. But I was reading a good article this morning on ESPN, and it was from Bill Barnwell, and he identified some potential trades that could happen this offseason. And I think there was like about 10 or 15 of these trades that were thrown out there, and I put together 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think out of the 15 that just stood out to me. And I'll start with Kyler Murray. If you were to tell me that the Jets would be trading for Kyler Murray, I would say, yeah. Like, if I'm the Jets, I get it. You're desperate for a quarterback. You're not going to go out there and acquire Tua Tagovailoa unless the Dolphins just outright release him. And still, with the way that wind swirls in the swamps of Jersey at the Meadowlands, at MetLife Stadium, I would advise against Tua for many reasons. But a name like Kyler Murray, he's not a top 10 quarterback in this league. He's not worth the salary that you're paying him. I think he is vastly overrated, but the Jets haven't had something that you get excited about at the quarterback position in quite some time. I get it. They tried with Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers, in theory, at the end of his career, even though he was limping into that chapter with the Jets, and then he had the whole Achilles injury, which just made it worse and basically ended his career, even though Rodgers is still kicking it and he played for the Steelers this past year. But there's never going to be another moment where you look at Aaron Rodgers and you say to yourself, okay, maybe that's a guy that could go win a Super Bowl. But the Jets, you look at their tortured history, and it's just been rotating a new coach. new general manager, and new quarterback over and over and over again as the hamster wheel does spin. So if you would have just said to me yesterday, Zach, what do you think about the Jets trading for Kyler Murray? I would say no, right? Like, nah, it doesn't excite me. If I was a Jet fan, which I'm not, I don't think Kyler is all that good. Can Kyler just be okay? Yes. Can he show you some moments where he looks like the first overall pick? Yes. Has he suffered a bunch of injuries? Yes. Do I ever think he's going to be elite? No. Do I ever think he's going to be great? No. So I would say, why are you going with damaged goods? Why are you going with someone that we already know is not going to live up to the potential? And in theory, you would try to go get a younger quarterback. But in this draft class, and the Jets have 2 picks, one at 2 and one at 16, 2 first-round picks, you're not going to be taking a quarterback at 2 because Fernando Mendoza is going to be going 1. There's not a quarterback worthy of going 2. I guess maybe they could take Ty Simpson at 16, but would I be doing somersaults in the street if I was a fan of the Jets because they drafted Ty Simpson? No, you're almost probably better off in just rolling the dice next year and hoping, and it's weird because you had the 2nd overall pick, but there in theory should be a deeper quarterback draft class. You're better just off rolling the dice next year where you have 3 first-round picks. So, like, that's the thing with the Jets. On the surface, if you would have asked me yesterday, should they go out there and should they trade for Kyler Murray, I would say no. But knowing there's 2 years left on the contract now, and then there's a club option, so you could get 3 years. Does that sway my opinion? Not really, but it doesn't hurt with what I'm about to say. Kyler Murray in this projected trade that Bill Barnwell put out there, the Jets would be getting Kyler Murray and a 2026 6th-round draft pick. All they would have to give up is a 2026 4th-round pick. So, if you go out there and you trade for Kyler Murray, what if you don't get him for this year, what's the alternative? Using a draft pick at 16 on Ty Simpson, I'd rather have Kyler Murray. Maybe going on out there and paying Daniel Jones, I think there's a chance he's going to get franchise tagged. Maybe paying or maybe finding a way to trade for Mac Jones. All right. Like, do the Jets have the roster, though, where Mac Jones is going to be able to succeed? Because you saw what happened in New England. And I got it. The 1 year they made the playoffs, they had a bottom 5 roster. But then after that, he was just surrounded by bad coaching and bad players, and Mac Jones wasn't really all that. I get it. The Jets have Garrett Wilson. The Jets have a bunch of picks coming in. But, like, you go through the options, you go through the alternatives. Kyler Murray, if all it's going to take is just giving up a 4th-round pick in essence, and you get back a 6, and you could get a quarterback, if that's the deal, and if that's the details of this potential deal, and you could get there, close in resemblance to that deal that Barnwell suggested, I think that's a move that if I'm the Jets, if I'm Darren Muji, I would roll the dice on it. Where I would say, okay, even though yesterday, if you just asked me cold, should the Jets trade for Kyler Murray, I would say no. But if you tell me all you're giving up is a 4th-round pick, there's basically 2 years left on that contract and a club option for a 3rd year, so it's easy to get out. Beggars can't really be choosers. The Jets, they don't have an attractive option for the quarterback position this year. I think bringing in Kyler Murray wouldn't be the worst thing. And even if bleep hits the fan, even if he gets hurt again or he's just god-awful, you have him on the roster for maybe a year after that to mentor a young quarterback. Not that I want Kyler Murray really mentoring people, but you have him for 1 more year, or you could just get rid of him. Like, if he becomes a malcontent. And if it doesn't work after a 1-year experiment, it will be easy to get rid of him. And then you have 3 first-round picks next year where you're going to have the expectation, the belief that there's going to be a deeper quarterback draft class. So at first I would say, if you ask me, the Jets should trade for Kyler Murray, I'd be like, why? But then if you see the details from this Bill Barnwell just article and speculation, it's like, all they have to give up is a 4th-round pick compared to what the alternative would be for the year of 2026. I would do that deal if you could get Kyler Murray and a 6th-round draft pick, and all you have to give up is a 2026 4th-round pick. So that's one deal that I look at, and I say that, yes, the Jets should do that. Now, here's the deal that he also proposed, the Raiders and the Bears. This one's fascinating. The Raiders would get DJ Moore and a 2026 1st-round pick. The Bears would get Max Crosby and a 2027 5th-round pick. If I'm the Las Vegas Raiders, I would do this deal. I think it kills 2 birds with 1 stone. Now, don't get me wrong. You are getting rid of arguably the best player on your roster in Max Crosby. But Max Crosby, you could tell, is unhappy right now. Now, Max Crosby did just sign an extension a year ago. Max Crosby could have got out of the Raiders if he wanted to a year ago, or paved the way for him to get out of the Raiders without signing a contract extension. For the Raiders, it should be about acquiring the most assets. And yes, could you argue, forget about DJ Moore and try to go get 2 1st-round picks, try to get a Micah Parsons return for Max Crosby? Yes, you can. But in this scenario, this is a trade that's proposed that I say to myself, I think it helps both parties out. Like, DJ Moore is a very good player. DJ Moore in a Ben Johnson offense is not needed for the Bears to thrive. Like, would you rather have DJ Moore on your team? Yes. But ever since DJ Moore was defending Justin Fields, and then in theory defending Justin Fields, it was basically as if you didn't want Caleb Williams. It has seemed as if that's been a little bit bizarre in the DJ Moore relationship in Chicago. And you got a good tight end in Colston Loveland. You got Roma Dunze also there in Chicago. I don't think you need DJ Moore. And if you could give up DJ Moore and a 1st-round pick, and that's the Bears saying, okay, we are good right now, we're trying to be great, and you get back a pass rusher like Max Crosby, I think that helps the Bears out now in their window where Caleb Williams is on a rookie contract. And then on the Raiders side of it, you get an additional 1st-round pick, and the Raiders should just be trying to stockpile as many 1st-round picks as possible. You have Fernando Mendoza. You're going to draft number 1 overall. You would then also be having Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers. What do we talk about the Raiders needing? The Raiders need they need a wide receiver. So for the Raiders, yes, you don't want to lose Max Crosby, but if you could tell me that the Raiders would be getting back DJ Moore to help their young quarterback and a 1st-round pick for 2026, where it could also help on the defensive side of the ball, the offensive side of the ball, I think that's putting your young quarterback in the best position possible to hit the ground running right away and succeed. So that's a deal that makes sense for both parties between the Raiders and the Bears. Now, here's one that's juicy. The Bills and the Jaguars. Now, the Bills should be all in. Brandon Beane, I know he just got the promotion, but all eyes are now on him. You get rid of Sean McDermott. I had no issue with them getting rid of Sean McDermott. Now you got Joe Brady promoted from within. Josh Allen essentially picking the next head football coach of the Buffalo Bills. But the Bills have been knocking on the door for the last 5 years, and they keep on coming up small. They keep on coming up short. Now they got to break that door down. And the receiver I'm about to throw out there is not a bona fide number 1, is not a lock number 1. Through 2 years of his career, he had 1 year that was sensational. And then last year, it was disappointing and there were drops, but it seemed like there was something more. And when you bring in a new coach, like what the Jaguars brought in and Liam Cohen, sometimes a wide receiver doesn't just mesh and have synergy with a new head football coach. And maybe that's what happened with Brian Thomas Jr. But this trade proposed by ESPN, the Bills would get Brian Thomas Jr. and a 2026 5th-round pick. The Jaguars would get Keon Coleman and a 2026 1st-round pick. Now, here is why, if I'm the Bills, I would do this. Keon Coleman's just not working. Keon Coleman has been a bust through the first 2 years of his career in the NFL. Keon Coleman is going to be remembered as like the line in his pre-draft interview. Oh, you like to golf? Yeah, I'm Tiger. Wish he could. Like that. That is the memorable line, and also the coat and all that stuff. And I had introduced at his press conference in Buffalo. But Keon Coleman just doesn't have the want to right now. It's one thing not to be productive on the field when you're late to team meetings, when they bench you multiple times as a healthy and active in terms of punitive action. Keon Coleman's got to go. He does. So if you get rid of Keon Coleman and you attach a first-round pick, which, let's be real, it's a 2026 first-round pick, so that means nothing. That's this year's first-round pick for the Buffalo Bills. Are you going to find a player picking late in the first round that is probably going to help your offense at the wide receiver position that just at a bare minimum would be on the same level as Brian Thomas Jr.? Probably not. And that's even with Brian Thomas Jr. having an off year last year after what was a phenomenal rookie season. So like I look at that, if the Bills could take advantage of Brian Thomas Jr., who's unhappy, and you swap out wide receivers, and it's like, okay, Brian Thomas Jr. needs a change of scenery. Keon Coleman needs a change of scenery. You bring Keon Coleman back down to Florida, obviously played his college football at Florida State. And all you need to do is you give up a first-round pick in return. Like, yeah, this guy, Brian Thomas Jr., is 2 years removed from being a first-round pick. So I would do that if I'm Buffalo because, yes, your window is still open with Josh Allen, but you can't be cutting corners anymore. You've cut too many corners at the wide receiver position, and now it's coming back to bite you. And if you roll into next year with James Cook as running back, and you got Brian Thomas Jr. at wide receiver with Josh Allen as the quarterback, that's an offense that really could strike some fear in you, especially if Brian Thomas Jr. get back to what he was, a year ago. Colts and Panthers making a trade. This one is a little bit bizarre. If I was Indianapolis, I would prefer to say no. But if Indy gets the feeling, hey, we got to go pay Michael Pittman Jr. again, he's going to want, because he's like an in-betweener. There's times he looks like a number one. Is he a great number one wide receiver in the NFL? No. But at other times, he plays like a two. So when you flash some signs of being a one, and then you a lot of other times look more like a two, but you're asked to be a one in that offense, I don't want to sit there and have to pay you, $30-something million a year. Or even more than that, because the price for wide receivers keep on going up and up and up. And how many times you see that in the NFL where you could be a good player, but when you get to the negotiation table, you're able to spin yourself as being a great player as it pertains to the team needs. So has Xavier Legette of the Panthers been phenomenal? Absolutely not. But in this trade, the Panthers would be getting Michael Pittman Jr. and a 2026 7th-round pick for Xavier Legette and a 2026 5th-round pick. If I'm the Colts, I would say no. If I'm the Panthers, I would say yes to that in a heartbeat because this is going to be a huge year for Bryce Young. Bryce Young did some good things this year. He's now 3 years into his NFL career, going into year number 4. This is the only thing the Panthers should do this offseason. Like, yes, you have the rookie of the year, Teterow and McMillan. So you put McMillan and Pittman side by side. That gives your quarterback an opportunity to really evaluate him and really determine if you're going to pay him. But the Carolina Panthers would be making an enormous mistake if they go out there and give Bryce Young a lucrative contract this offseason. All you need to do as he goes into year 4 is you pick up the 5th-year option for insurance. That's what you do. And you do not do something prematurely like what Jacksonville did, what the Dolphins did, and that's going out there and rush to pay your quarterback for just being fine. Like, Bryce Young is fine. Bryce Young is solid. Bryce Young has a chance, but he is nowhere close to deserving $55 or $50 or $60 million a year. And if the Carolina Panthers just rush to pay the quarterback for the sake of paying a quarterback, they will go on to regret that in a few years from now. Make Bryce Young prove it once again. And that's why if you go get Michael Pittman Jr. and you pair him up with Teterow, McMillan, T-Mac, that's putting your young quarterback in a chance to not only succeed, but to get even better. Vikings and 49ers. Now, this was a trade that was also proposed by ESPN. The Vikings would get Mac Jones and a 2027 3rd-round pick. The 49ers, in return, would get a 2026 2nd-round pick, a 2027 fifth round pick with some conditions attached to it, and a 2028 third round pick with some conditions attached to it as well. If I'm Minnesota, I would have to think about this. Because if you're Minnesota and you look at your quarterback right now in J.J. McCarthy, he's been there for 2 years. First year was missed entirely because of injury. This year, he either wasn't good or he was hurt. Like, ideally, you want to give J.J. a third year here, and you want him to stay healthy, and you want to get the evaluation done on the football field. But you can't walk into this season without an insurance policy. You've let Sam Darnold walk out the door. You've let Daniel Jones walk out the door as well. You have to bring in someone this year. And if I'm a fan of the Vikings and you say Mac Jones or Kirk Cousins, because those have been two names that have been discussed a lot. If I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan, I would prefer to bring in Mac Jones over Kirk Cousins in a reunion with Kirk Cousins. Mac Jones is a system quarterback. He was a system quarterback at Alabama, right? We have seen him at times step in with the San Francisco 49ers this year and use the players around him to have games that were serviceable enough to lead to victories. If Mac Jones goes to Minnesota in a dome for half the season, and he has Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson with the offensive play calling minds of Kevin O'Connell, I think Mac Jones would be a good insurance option. And if you're giving up a second-round pick for Mac Jones, he probably will inevitably replace J.J. McCarthy at some point if it's because of injury or if it's just because of bad play. So that's a move that if you're the 49ers, I'm not just rushing to trade Mac Jones just for the sake of it, because Brock Purdy has had some injury history. Brock Purdy is your franchise quarterback. He's a good quarterback. I wouldn't call him a great quarterback. Like, he is your number one, though. But with the times that he gets hurt and the frequency of the amount of injury he has, a backup option is so imperative. But you're talking about, just for starters, getting a second-round pick for Mac Jones back? Yeah, it doesn't get much better than that. So I would do this deal if I'm the Niners, and I would also do this deal if I'm the Minnesota Vikings. Some other deals. Eagles and Steelers. Now, this one, I know the Steelers are desperate to find their next quarterback. And they have Will Howard on the roster. They'll probably bring back Aaron Rodgers, unless if Aaron Rodgers winds up in Minnesota. The love affair of Tanner McKee, I just don't get it. In this proposed trade by ESPN, the Eagles will get a 2026 third-round pick and then a 2027 third-round pick. It would be a conditional pick for Tanner McKee. You're giving up potentially 2 third-round picks for a guy in Tanner McKee where, let's be real, we have not seen him do jack in a regular season game. If I'm Pittsburgh, I would just say, instead of giving 2 third-round picks for Tanner McKee, let's see what we got in Will Howard. The Eagles should do this. The Pittsburgh Steelers should not. Eagles and Broncos thrown out their trade by ESPN. A.J. Brown to the Broncos, along with a 2026 fifth-round pick. The Eagles would get back Riley Moss. So you put Riley Moss in a secondary with Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. And they would also be getting a 2026 second-round pick and a 2027 fifth-round pick. So basically, you're swapping fifth-round picks in 2026 and 2027. Broncos would get one in 2026. Eagles would get one in 2027. You are then trading a second for A.J. Brown, which is probably the value that A.J. Brown goes for, plus you're getting a player attached to it. The Broncos should absolutely do this. Broncos defense we know isn't a problem. Cortland Sutton is the best wide receiving option for the Broncos. He's fine. A.J. Brown, when he wants to be, could still be a top 10 wide receiver. You're adding a little extra flavor and punch to that offense. I don't think the Eagles are probably going to get a first-round pick back for A.J. Brown. So this is them getting a 2026 second and Riley Moss. Could you maybe call up Buffalo and New England and say, guys, A.J. Brown is one of yours. New England, you were worse, Buffalo, you were worst off this year. I don't know what other picks they do have, to be fair. So we'll give them to you for a second. New England, if you want to give us your first, which is the 31st overall pick, we will do that with you. And then maybe Buffalo will just say, nah, screw that. We'll just give you our first. Like, I would pit those two teams up against one another. But if you get the sense that you're not going to get a first-round pick for A.J. Brown, which you probably won't be because he's a pain in the ass. He's a phenomenal football player, but a royal pain in the ass. Then Denver should give up that, and the Eagles should accept that for A.J. Brown. But you have to ask yourself, if you're the Eagles, can you live with another year where there's some questions surrounding A.J. Brown? Like, do you still feel the juice is worth the squeeze where bringing in a new offensive coordinator, that Sean Mannion excites anybody? Can he find a way to rectify this situation in Philadelphia? Because, yes, A.J. Brown was upset with the play calling last year, but I think the issues go deeper than that. There are serious issues with A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. The Ravens and the Giants are mocked to have a trade here by ESPN, which is fascinating because of the John Harbaugh relationship. The Ravens would be getting Kayvon Thibodeau. The Giants would be getting back a 2026 fourth-round pick. I know the contract is running up for Kayvon Thibodeau. The Giants have a bunch of pass rushers, Brian Burns and Abdul Carter. They have Sexy Dexy on that defensive line as well. Thibodeau probably won't get a new contract in New York. I would maybe wait until the deadline. Like, I don't think you have to give up a fourth round, or you have to give up Kayvon Thibodeau right now to just get back a fourth round pick. Could it maybe get up by the deadline to a third round pick? That's a possibility. So I would hold off on that. Here was another fascinating one by ESPN. Bengals and Cowboys. The Bengals would get Kenny Clark, who was in the Micah Parsons trade, and Jerry Jones was slobbering over, and a 2027 seventh-round pick. The Cowboys would get back a 2027 sixth-round pick. That would be a salary dump. If, like, Dallas, I don't know, that's a tough sell. You trade Micah Parsons. I know you were able to use one of those picks to go get Quinnen Williams over from the Jets. But I would like to see that defense for a full season with Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams on that defensive line. So I know it would be to open up salary. The Cowboys, though, have not been aggressive in previous offseason in terms of adding talent. I would say no thank you if I'm a fan of the Cowboys on that one. Here's one that I love, and this is the last one, then we'll take a break. Rams and Chiefs. So Les Snead once said, F them picks. They're trying to get one more Super Bowl for Matthew Stafford. The last 2 years, they've been close. They lost in the division round to the Snow to the Eagles, who ended up winning the Super Bowl. And then this year, they lose to the Seahawks in the conference championship game. The Seahawks ended up going on to win the Super Bowl, as you know, just a few weeks ago, clobbering the Pats. The Rams would give up their 2026 first-round pick, and they got two of them because of that deal with Atlanta for the pass rusher. The Rams would get back Trent McDuffie, who's a phenomenal corner, and a 2026 fifth-round pick. The Rams should do that. Because the Rams, they have some good pieces on defense. Verse, Young, Turner, Quinn Lake, Fisk. But their defense didn't always play great last year. And you got extra capital. I would give one of those first-round picks to get a corner of the caliber of a Trent McDuffie. And for the Chiefs, you got to retool. You got to readjust. You should be back in the playoffs next year. And if you're in there, people are going to say, go win the Super Bowl. But with winning 3 already, and even though McDuffie is a heck of a player, I would think you could get away with that, and you get a first-round pick back in return. So those are some deals by ESPN, and I just gave you my thoughts on whether I like these deals or not. Zach Gelb here with you on 365 Sports. A lot cooking on the hardwood, and also a lot coming up on the gridiron with Big 12 football. Ari Temkin does a sensational job, Big 12 radio, and he's going to join us on the other side. This is Zach Gelb. You're watching 365 Sports.
The 4-burner, side sear burner with Clearview Glass stainless steel grill from Monument Grills. Made of tempered glass, which is strong, insulated, and allows you to check your grilling without lifting the lid. Our porcelain-coated cast iron cooking grids offer a large cooking surface of 513.3 square inches, primary cooking area, with even heat cooking. The Monument Grills include LED control knobs and are easy to light with pilotless electronic ignition. Better grilling, better value, Monument Grills.
Protect your online privacy with NordVPN. Browse securely, access content from anywhere, and keep your data safe with military-grade encryption. Whether at home or on the go, NordVPN ensures your digital freedom. Stay secure. Download NordVPN today at nordvpn.com. That's NORDVPN.com.
Hey guys, I'm Abby Dommett, 2023 CrossFit Games athlete, and I use Airwave because it helps me breathe easier and stay more relaxed during my workouts.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Very discreet.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
College basketball is heating on up. I will be on the broadcast coverage tonight for Compass Media Networks for Michigan and Purdue. I know later in the week, Michigan does play Duke. Last night, I guess you could call it an upset because it's 2 versus 6, but Iowa State did defeat Houston 70-67. A few weeks ago, I did a little Darren Peterson and Texas Tech and that whole storyline. So that was a whole lot of fun. So a lot going on in college basketball, a lot going on in the Big 12, and also not only for basketball, football as well. So let's go out to the guest line right now and welcome in Ari Temkin from Big 12 Radio. Ari, how are you, my friend?
I'm great, Zach. How are you, buddy?
Well, I'm doing fantastic. So let's start off with the Jerome Tang situation. These are my thoughts, then I'll get yours. I understand why they're moving on from him. It's because the guy didn't win enough basketball games since going to the Elite Eight. The idea that he's not going to get his $18 million because of that press conference from the other week is just absurd to me. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, my alma mater in Kansas went through this years ago with Jeff Long as the athletic director and David Beatty as the football coach, where they tried to fire Beatty for cause in order to hire Long's good friend Les Miles, which is just one of the pieces that happened at Kansas under Jeff Long in a line of just horrendous moves, and probably what will go down as the worst tenure of any athletic director in the history of the Power Four, but that's beside the point. I don't know if there was some sort of agreement handed down from the president to the athletic director, and they thought maybe there was something that they could, wiggle out of this, but there's no way you could fire Jerome Tang for cause. One of the big reasons we thought that Jerome Tang would not get let go was because of that buyout. It's the largest buyout for any coach in the history of college basketball. So, this is not a lot of money that Kansas State, this is not the type of money that Kansas State has on hand. I would imagine they were able to sort of organize boosters in a way that would get them to buy this out. And look, K-State has done a really good job in finding and mobilizing boosters to spend in their athletic department, specifically in basketball. Jerome Tang has been gifted with some of the largest budgets that K-State's ever had for basketball. And, they just have not materialized into quality rosters. He had his best year, his first year when they went to the Elite Eight, and they've just been kind of slowly but surely worse and worse every year since then. So completely justifiable to cut ties with Jerome Tang, and they're going to end up paying him out the full amount plus lawyer fees. And then, of course, the issues that this will drag out in the court of public opinion.
Now, obviously, you just laid out the money scenario with the boosters. How attractive for like a top name candidate like the St. Louis coach? How attractive do you think Kansas State is?
Yeah, it's not attractive for a sitting Power 5 head coach, but yeah, I would say that the school you just mentioned, if I'm Gene Taylor and K-State, Josh Schertz is my first and hopefully only call. Look, K-State does historically, have a pretty good basketball program and has for quite some time. They have not in the modern era been able to get to a Final Four, but they've been to the Elite Eight multiple times and have had, many good players come through their program. So I think, this is an attractive destination. It's obviously within the Big 12, which is the best college basketball conference in America. And to me, it's not even close. I could absolutely see, this being an attractive destination. Also because of the fact that, again, Jerome Tang had some pretty decent money at his disposal. He just didn't appropriate it properly, or he couldn't coach the team up enough.
So when you look at their football program, last year, one of the more disappointing teams in all of college football. I know there were some bigger name programs that maybe get more attention. Avery Johnson's still there now. Chris Kleiman's gone, and you're bringing Colin Klein. Just what can you I know it's early, but what can you expect for them this upcoming season in college football?
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because if you would have told me a year ago that K-State would be hiring a new football and basketball coach, I don't think I would have believed you.
Yeah.
It's remarkable how this has transpired, with Chris Kleiman and I think in some ways K-State kind of hit the jackpot because, Colin Klein, obviously historically a great player in the history of K-State, one of their absolute legends. And, he was definitely a riser in the ranks of assistant coaches. I mean, he was an offensive coordinator, first the quarterbacks coach, that offensive coordinator at K-State. I thought the last time that K-State had a really good offense, Colin Klein was their offensive coordinator. He leaves and go to Texas A&M. I thought what he was able to do, this last year in terms of their offense was incredible, given the talent or lack thereof for A&M. In really the last couple of years, how good they've been. So, for all the attention that this dude was getting nationally in terms of, interest as a head coach, K-State kind of hit the jackpot here with Colin Klein, rather with Chris Kleiman. His names are awfully similar.
Yeah.
With them up once or twice. For Chris Kleiman kind of to be okay with being on his way out. And that, they weren't going to fire Kleiman, but they needed an opportunity to move on from him, bring in Colin Klein. It's in some ways reminiscent of what Bob Stoops did with Lincoln Riley, where you're a legendary coach. They're never going to part ways with you. Are you willing to sort of get out of the way for this up and coming coach that if you don't, he may leave and go elsewhere, become a great coach? It's exactly what Bob Stoops did with Lincoln Riley. And I think it's awfully similar with what Chris Kleiman did, kind of knowing that Colin Klein was hanging out there, knowing he's a legend at K-State, and knowing that, he would get an opportunity to become a head coach very soon.
I'll get back to basketball, but since we're on that topic, Utah, Whittingham, an absolute legend for that program, had so many opportunities to take a bigger job. I remember talking to him 2-3 years ago, and I go, there's a lot of changes in this sport, coach. Like, people, right, get stubborn, stuck in their ways. Like, is there a part where you just walk away? And he goes, I'm not ready to retire right now, but I'm not on the front nine of my career anymore. Like, he acknowledged that. They announced the coach in waiting, and he clearly didn't want to leave Utah. And the next thing you know, that he's the coach at Michigan. Like, is that the truth of that whole situation? They were ready to go to Morgan, and they just didn't want to go another year with Whittingham.
Yeah, I mean, Zach, from what I've heard and what I've been told, basically there was a specific date that Kyle Whittingham was supposed to let the administration at Utah know what his future plans were. And when he did, Utah disagreed with what those future plans were. And you could read between the lines there, but yeah, he was pushed out. And, it's tough because at the end of the day, like, you're going to lose Morgan Scalley, probably a good reason to not name a coach in waiting. But they were ready to move on from Whittingham, hand the keys over to Morgan Scalley, and they thought Whittingham would be too. They kind of figured after their first year in the Big 12, where they were really disappointing, that they'd give him the opportunity to kind of fix it up, get it back to where it was this past year. Then he'd ride off into the sunset. Whittingham's such an interesting dude because he's got the yin and the yang thing really well. Like, he's not, one of these crazed football coaches that's in the office constantly and only like eats, breathes, dreams and sleeps football. Like, he's got another life outside football. He's got a family and grandkids. He loves his Harley. He listens to music. Like, he's got hobbies and he's got things he does outside of football. So you kind of would have thought with that, that balance in his life that maybe this would be it. And he clearly wasn't ready to go. I thought when the whole situation with Sherrone Moore happened at Michigan, like, what better coach could you bring in than Kyle Whittingham? Like, he's the adult in the room. He is like just meat and potatoes, old school, old style football coach. Like, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get a great defense that's going to, take 3 stars and turn them into 5 stars at NFL talent. That's what he did at Utah. And then you're going to have a really good running game and a good offense. And you're going to, you're going to be ground and pound with a great defense. So it's like the perfect hire for Michigan. And a lot of people at Utah were upset with him, but it's like, what are you supposed to do? You let him go. You wanted to move on from him. So I'm sorry that he, took coordinators and coaches and players with him, but like, sorry, you forced him out. He'd still be at Utah if you didn't. And there was some friendly fire too with Jay Hill, the BYU defensive coordinator, leaving to become his defensive coordinator. So, even BYU was impacted by it. So, I get the hard feelings from Utah fans, but at the same time, I don't get it. They pushed him out. They're responsible for it. And now he lands with Michigan, which I think is the perfect spot for him. And yeah, we'll see, time will tell on Morgan Scalley, because all we've heard about is how similar he is to Cal Whittingham. So we'll see the ways in which he's different.
When that job became available, and obviously we didn't know the entire extent of the Sharon Moore situation, but the first name I suggested was Kenny Dillingham. Like, if I thought there was going to be a Big 12 coach leaving to get the Michigan job, it would have been Kenny. Were you surprised with all the big jobs that were open this offseason that Kenny didn't leave a place that obviously is very close to him in Arizona State?
I don't know that Kenny will stay at Arizona State forever. But I do know that he wants to be there, and he wants to be there now, and wants to be there for the foreseeable future. I mean, it's well documented. He grew up there. He went to Arizona State. He's an alum. Like, he lives in this area where his parents are right there, and his family's like, he's got everything he could possibly want. And so, when he does flirt with other schools, all he's trying to do is raise the stakes for his football program. He's just trying to get more for Arizona State football. That's all he's trying to do. And he is such a good politician from the standpoint of, he is out in the community. He is shaking hands and kissing babies. He is trying to cultivate a donor base that has really never been cultivated to the extent that he's cultivating it. And so he's, look, we know the history of Arizona State, right? And there was a long period of time where it was like, do they even care about athletics? Do they invest in athletics? Do they care? They have a donor base that could really support a high-level football program. So what he's trying to do is engage that donor base like they've never been engaged before. That's a tough task. But on top of that, he's also trying to work the administration on the Arizona State side in order to get more for his assistants and his assistant pool, and, of course, more money for NIL. I think, in some ways, Sam Leavitt leaving, going to LSU is a good thing, because when you look at what they did in the portal, for what they would have had to pay Leavitt to stay, they were able to bring in 3 or 4 guys in important positions that they needed to replace NFL level talent, because that's what Kenny Dillingham has done. Jordan Tyson's going to be wide receiver 1 in this upcoming draft. They've got a tackle that's going to be a first round pick. I mean, think about where they were from a talent standpoint a couple of years ago to now have 2 first round picks in just a short period of time for Dillingham. For me, he's the one coach you can consistently count on year in and year out to know, like, I don't know how good they're going to be, but I know they're not going to be bad. Like, they're going to be at least 6 wins. That's the floor for Arizona State every year. And we saw it last year when Leavitt was injured most of the year. They go to a quarterback that's very experienced, but had never really scratched the surface of his potential in 4 previous years at Georgia Tech and at Nebraska and even at Arizona State. And they cobbled together a really successful season. So I'm not saying that he's going to be there his entire career, but I do know for the foreseeable future, he'll be there. And when you do hear him publicly jockeying for other jobs, what he's really trying to do is create leverage for himself and for his program.
And I watched Jeff Sims when he was at Nebraska.
Yeah,
he stunk. Butterfingers, fumbling the ball left and right. It was horrific. I was shocked how he played this past year at times at Arizona State. It makes me wonder, Sam Leavitt's good, but how good is he if Sims could just walk in and you get that level of production?
That's a great point. And look, I think Leavitt is a very talented player, but how much money he can make this year, try to maximize that. I think he had a lot of family in his corner that, they're trying to maximize his value. Good for him. But I would have thought and guessed that now Lane Kiffin has a pretty good track record, so I'm not going to say anything negative about his ability to develop, but Dillingham is extremely good at developing the quarterback position. You'd think if you're weighing this thing out, you have, more earning potential as an NFL quarterback long-term if you stick with Dillingham. But again, Lane Kiffin's pretty good at that too. But yeah, I mean, you think about an 8-win season with Jeff Sims at quarterback. I mean, talk to any Nebraska fan and they'd be like, what?
Yeah.
No
what world are we living in?
Chance. And he played the majority of the games last year and had big wins.
So let me get to Baylor too, as Ari Temkin's here with us. A few weeks ago, I'm like, all right, Dave Aranda's a dead man walking. Then they get DJ Lagway. And like now I'm conflicted because I watched Lagway at Florida. Overrated. I get it. The coaching staff wasn't great there with Billy Napier. And I also watched Anthony Richardson at Florida, and I thought he was overrated. But now he goes to a place like Baylor, and I wonder if getting out of the spotlight is going to be the best thing for DJ Lagway and could also maybe save Dave Aranda's job.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, like, I think there are parts of DJ Lagway that failed at Florida based on the head coach and what was going on at Florida. And I think that there are parts of DJ Lagway that wasn't as good and maybe overrated that were due to DJ Lagway. I think with Baylor, you have to start off with the reality that quarterback wasn't the issue last year. I mean, they had one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12 in Sawyer Robertson.
Yeah.
It was defense that was a huge issue for them. And, now they've brought in a defensive coordinator.
Oh, it's amazing how many games you look at the point totals and you go, they lost that game.
It's even the SMU game week 2. It was like they could not stop anybody. And look, I think a big piece of the modern game right now is like defense is really outpacing offense right now. I think 5 to 10 years ago, great elite offenses were beating elite defenses. I think it's flipped. I think now you have elite defenses that are beating elite offenses. So, they've been sort of built backwards, especially given Dave Aranda as their head coach. And I hope for Aranda's sake, they've improved the defense because it doesn't matter, if you bring in Joe Montana at quarterback, if they haven't fixed the defense, they can't stop anybody. Now, going back to Lagway, I think it's not just about Aranda, it's about Jake Spavital, their offensive coordinator who did wonders last couple of years, with Sawyer Robertson. Lagway is very similar to Sawyer Robertson. I mean, he's built like a tank. He's got a big arm. So it makes sense in terms of transitioning this offense to DJ Lagway. I think Lagway, his decision, not only that his dad went to Baylor, but the fact that he probably saw the offense that they were going to run and thought it was perfect for him because it was exactly what Sawyer Robertson ran to a T last year. But again, like I think Sawyer Robertson, today is better than DJ Lagway today. Sure. And so they need to take a dramatic step forward on defense to have any shot because Sawyer Robertson saved them in the games that they won because they just were awful on defense last year.
All right, Temkin here with us on 365 Sports. Artist obviously does a great job for Big 12 Radio. We'll get back to the basketball in just a second, but we started to go down the football rabbit hole. And once you go down the rabbit hole, it's tough to get out of it. Christian Fourier joined us last week and just shredded Coach Prime and the direction of Colorado football. And it's not like Christian Fourier doesn't love Colorado. I understand that his son was asked to leave with the whole Coach Prime situation, but he claims that's not why he doesn't like Coach Prime. Even though if some people didn't like the way that he said it, year 1, they won the first 3 games, then they won 1 game down the stretch. Year 2, very good season. They were competing for a Big 12 championship game. I think they lost to Kansas at the end of the year. Then they lose Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders, and it was, they did not look good last year. What is there to expect at this point from Coach Prime at Colorado? Because I look at their schedule and I go, if everything goes right, maybe 5 wins this year.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably pretty on track with where I am as well. So a couple of things. I think number one, I do want to give Dion a little bit of grace for this past year. I mean, he had bladder cancer. Yeah, had to have his bladder removed, and then on top of that, had to deal with the blood clots. The fact that he remains coaching despite that is pretty remarkable. So, I attribute in many ways what happened last year to, the coach was not present at all, was dealing with health concerns. And I think the results speak for itself. I think, they made a massive mistake in terms of their offensive coordinator. In college football today, you've got to be multiple. You can't just be, this is the offense we run and we're going to run it this style and that's the only thing we're going to do. And I think it completely sabotaged their ability to be anything on offense last year. So I love the switch to Brennan Marion coming in to run that go-go spread offense. Colorado has not run the ball effectively at all since Dion has been there, and that even extends into the Shedeur Sanders era. And so I love bringing in Brennan Marion. I think what they have at quarterback with Julia Lewis, who was a former high 4-star last year who came in, hasn't left. I think it's perfect for him in this offense. I like what they did in the transfer portal at the running back position, and I think they have the right offensive play caller. Now, the biggest thing last year was their defense really took a huge step back after being a huge reason for why they were successful a couple of years ago under Livingston. And, so this is a big year for him because he took over as a longtime assistant under Zach Taylor at Cincinnati, but had never called plays and had kind of a so-so first year and then had a great second year, only to kind of have, not so good this past year. So I think it's a big year for him, but I'm with you. Like, you can't say we're bringing in our own Louis, become more of a overtly, transactional program, and then look up one day and be like, well, we don't have as much money as everybody else. And now I think this is unfair. This is based on some recent comments from Dion where he was talking about, how some programs have more money than others. What a concept. Yeah. So either, Dion, you got to put your money where your mouth is, because we know that Colorado just doesn't have the booster support that a Texas Tech or some of the big dogs have. And so that's where he's at. Like, he had a Jordan Seaton come in who started from day one right away as a 5-star left tackle. And now he's out the door to get more money. So you've got to either become a relationship-based program that recruits kids because I'm Deion Sanders and you want to come here to learn out of one of the greatest of all time, and I'm going to help you get to that level. But you can't be transactional, and that's what he's been. He's like surprised that suddenly people are leaving because he started this program as a transactional program as opposed to being a relational program that develops great football players. And he's sort of caught in between here because I don't know that he had a real good sense of, how the sausage was made at Colorado.
His vision is working, but his vision is working better at other places. And his kids realize that.
Yep. That. And like, if you're at LSU or Texas, like if you have all the money, your vision's working, but you had to know when you came into Colorado that, it was going to take time and effort. Like what Kenny Dillingham is doing at Arizona State is what Dion has to be doing at Colorado, but he doesn't have any time for that. He's Deion freaking Sanders, right? He's not going to go hobnob with boosters and talk publicly about engaging boosters in that way. So I think he's got to change his approach and understand that, like, yeah, you don't have all the money in the world. You can't just go and find guys. Like, you will find guys that want to go there because you're Deion, but they're not going to stay there because you're Deion. And that's what happened with guys like Jordan Seaton.
And I'll tell you, whenever Coach Prime walks away from Colorado, I would not want to be the coach that follows him. Like I just don't think you'll be in for a guy that still hasn't really accomplished much there. I don't think you're going to have to live in the shadow of that. I would stay away from that job whenever Coach Prime does walk away from it.
Yeah, there's no question. And, I know that Foria was talking about just some of the crazed fans that are associated with Colorado football with Dion, and they're very real and they're very much out there. Yeah. I mean, it really is. And it's like, you can't say anything negative about him. Otherwise, you fall into a couple of different buckets or categories. And it's like, even if you have a rational argument, which we're trying to make here, it seems like they're just completely shut down. And what do you mean transactional? Isn't everybody transactional? The dude said I'm bringing my own Louis. Like, what are you talking about? There's a huge difference there. And if you don't see it, I can't show you it.
For Texas Tech, talking about a program that has a lot of money, and they had a very good season this past year, but it makes you wonder, can they win a national championship? Like, is their ceiling just winning the Big 12 and maybe going on to eventually win a playoff game? Or do you think that they could win a national championship?
I think they could win a national championship. I think they were all-time great on defense. They were historically great on defense. And I think that there were signs of this offense, the offensive issues, but we just probably didn't notice as much when they were winning these games because they had so many explosive plays. But some of that was just due to, being so much better than some of these teams up front. And then, of course, what their defense was doing that was demoralizing teams because their defense was that good. I mean, it was historically great. And they just weren't good enough at quarterback, clearly. And, if Barrett Morton makes a play or two plays in that game, it's a lot closer. Now, he didn't make any plays. He couldn't make a play. Oregon was basically goading him into making plays, saying, we're going to choke out your running game and force you to make plays.
It was sloppy for a while that game.
He just couldn't do it. And the defense was holding up its end of the bargain. So look, they feel like they've improved dramatically at quarterback with Brendan Sorsby. They've spent a lot of money on the offensive side of the ball, not just in Sorsby, but what they did in the portal at the wide receiver position. They still have, they're stable of running backs from last year. So they could absolutely win a national championship. Like, they're going to take a step back on defense next year just because, again, they were historically great, but they'll still be really good on defense. They just have to be, better than average or below average on offense in order to win a national championship. I mean, we've seen, look at the Seahawks, look at the Eagles from a couple of years ago, look at the Hoosiers this year. Like, it's defense is winning championships right now, but you have to have a quarterback that can make plays over the course of the playoffs in order to get you there, as we saw with Sam Darnold, as we saw with with the Eagles a couple of years ago. And then, of course, the Heisman Trophy winner at Indiana probably overshadowed a bit of their defense. But right now, defense is winning championships in college football and in the NFL. You just have to have an offense that can make plays. I think an elite offense and an average defense could win a national title today. I'm not sure that an elite defense and an average offense could win a national title today.
Getting back to basketball with Ari Temkin from Big 12 Radio, the Darren Peterson situation, this has been my take on it. They could win with him. They could win without him. Whether you think the injuries are legitimate or not, I don't want to make Bill Self mad again. The bottom line is the juice is still worth the squeeze, because whenever you could get him on the court, this kid looks like he's going to be the number 1 overall pick in the draft. And if you don't have him, yeah, it could be a headache. Yeah, it could be a little bit bizarre, but you could still go out there and beat a team that was the number 1 team in the country. What do you make of all the conversation surrounding Darren Peterson?
Yeah, I mean, I don't exactly agree with that sentiment. And again, I'm emotionally invested in this because I am a Kansas alum and a huge Kansas basketball fan. But I think, like, the psyche of the locker room matters a ton here, and the lack of understanding of when he's going to be available, or when is he going to play in this game, or is he going to play in the second half? I can't imagine that that's good for the psyche of the locker room. But Bill Self and the Jayhawks think exactly along the same lines that you do, which is, this dude is an insane talent. We'd be crazy to not play him whenever we possibly can. It's a reason why, despite what my emotions might tell me in the next month, I'm not going to be picking Kansas to be a Final Four team. I think that their season ends maybe in the first weekend of the NCAA tournament with Darren Peterson on the floor. Peterson's doing just enough to justify being the number 1 overall pick, but not enough for the name on the front of his jersey. And quite frankly, as an alum, I can't stand it. Like, Kansas basketball is so much bigger than Darren Peterson. It's so much bigger than Bill Self. The inventor of the game coached at Kansas and is the only losing coach. Wilt Chamberlain played at Kansas. Like, we're talking about an all-time school with the most wins in the history of college basketball that will be around long after Darren Peterson's gone. And not to say that Darren is treating it this way, because I like the kid, nothing against him. Like, I think he's got the right mentality. I think he's got a killer instinct in him. He's going to be great. But the people around him, the influence that they've had on him, I hate it. I can't stand it. And ultimately, like, what he's going to need to do to justify his career, not having nothing to do with Kansas. Like, he's got to be ready to play multiple playoff series in the NBA. And that is going to take a wear and tear and a toll on your body. And, like, if he's just, if so far in his career, whether it be high school or college, as soon as he's got a little bit of adversity from a physical standpoint, he checks out. Well, is he suddenly going to be able to do that in the NBA when he's going to be expected to carry a team through multiple playoff series to win multiple championships? That's my question about him. I have no doubts about taking him number 1 overall and being a great all-time player, but this dude has never had to fight against that adversity, the physical adversity that he's been dealing with over the course of this year. I don't doubt that he's had some of these things that have happened to him. And it's like, as soon as he doesn't feel 100% right, he's sitting out. I have no doubt that's the case here, but, like, at some point you're going to have to push yourself past your pain threshold. And that goes well beyond the University of Kansas.
What about Arizona? I know that it's only their first 2 losses of the season, but as you get closer to March and with the struggles of Tommy Lloyd in March, that starts to become the conversation. How concerned are you with Arizona?
Not yet. I mean, look, I think Koa Pete being limited to 11 minutes in that game was huge, because Pete is, another stud freshman that's a top 10 pick. And, I just think the depth, like Arizona's depth, it wears teams down and they're so physical. But I do think, like, are they good enough when they need to be at shooting threes? They're not a high volume 3-point shooting team. They haven't been, but they had the number one offense in the Big 12 last year without being a high volume 3-point shooting team. And what Tommy Lloyd always says is we can shoot when we need to. Well, at some point they're going to need to. But the top 5 teams of the Big 12 are so good. I mean, we were going through this. So the top 5 teams of the Big 12 are 70-0 in quads 2, 3, and 4. Okay, there's no other conference like the Big 10. Their top 5 teams have 3 losses in quad 2. The Big 12 top 5 have 0 losses in quads 2, 3, and 4. Those five teams are top 16. All 5 are top 16 in the net and top 16 in Ken Palm. The Big 10 has 5 teams in the top 15 of the net and 15 of the Ken Palm. But the Big East, the SEC, and the ACC have combined for 5 teams in the top 16 of the net and Ken Palm. So that shows you how much more dominant the Big 12 and the Big 10 are. And I would argue the Big 12 is even more dominant than the Big 10 is. So I say all that to say, like, the Big 12 backloaded their schedules. So we're seeing some growing pains here with, I mean, Houston has Arizona on Saturday at home and then Allen Fieldhouse on Monday against Kansas. Like this stretch with the top 5 teams playing each other a bunch is a really bad stretch. And I don't think it says anything big picture about any of these teams other than like, these are basically Final Four matchups that the Big 12 has, you know, on a pretty consistent basis right now.
And as a consumer of the product, it makes the sport fun because I know you truly never know who's going to win the national championship because it's single elimination, it's March Madness, you have all these crazy upsets, you know, all that stuff. But even last night, like, all right, Iowa State beats Houston. And then you talk about the Houston schedule. If Houston has 2 more losses, people are going to be like, is Kelvin Sampson going to be able to get that team back to the Final Four? Yeah, like, absolutely he still can. It's just there's got to be 20-something teams that you legitimately could look at and say they could win a national championship this year.
Yeah, and it depends on draw. And I'll say this, like, Houston is aiming for a 1 seed, but to be honest, the biggest thing that they need is the South region because that's in Houston. And so even if they're a 2 seed, you know, getting that South region, I'd hate to be the 1 seed that gets that because you're basically playing an away game, you know, at Toyota Center in Houston to get to a Final Four. So I think, you know, if you're Houston, like a 1 seed be great, but a 2 seed of the South is fine too. So while the Big 12 is sort of positioning itself, I think for 2 1 seeds, I'm not sure that it will end up happening because I think the top with Arizona, Duke, UConn, and Michigan, like they're pretty set in stone in terms of being those 1 seeds. So I think what we're going to see is those top 5 teams we've just talked about in the Big 12 will all be sprinkled within the top 4 seeds at the NCAA tournament, and they're all dangerous.
He's Ari Temkin from Big 12 Radio. Ari, appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this.
Take care, Zach. See you, buddy.
You got it. There he is, Ari Temkin. Excellent conversation with him. We are overdue for a break, so we'll take one right now. We'll get back in to some Big 12 talk when we come on back in football. Also delve into the Big 10, the ACC, and the SEC. We'll go player, coach, and team, and who we're really identifying heading into this upcoming college football season as we are in the off season, obviously with being the 17th day of February in the year of 2026.
Do you have a second?
Yeah, come on in.
Thanks. I'm having an issue with Ralph.
With Ralph?
He keeps stealing my lunch.
He's just researching new flavors.
That is slow smoked turkey.
Ralph steals my lunch all the time. You get used to it.
He also peed on my bag.
He is warming up to you. You know, starting a new job, it's a big change. I want you to think about how you can be more accommodating to Ralph. We're all co-owners here.
If I'm only wearing one suit this summer, it has to be Tuileries Performance Linen. It's wrinkle resistant, machine washable, and built with stretch and breathability that actually moves with you. It'll keep you cool, sharp, and stress-free at your next event.
What does being different mean to me? You know, that is an interesting question.
Because there really isn't one way. There's a bunch of different ways you could do it.
But love is passion. Someone you can't live without.
What do you want? You know, what's that really good non-alcoholic beer I keep hearing about? Do you have that really great non-alcoholic beer that I keep seeing?
You mean athletic? You're looking at it.
It's athletic. Ask for it.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, welcome back. Zach Gelb Show right here on 365 Sports. Garrett Ross, let's bring you in for the first time today. We'll go through our little Big Ten, ACC, SEC, Big 12 exercise in just a second. But Ari Temkin just joining us, obviously for a half hour is excellent stuff. A few talking points from that let's go over. His take on Darren Peterson as someone that, right, he's a Kansas alum.
Yep.
I thought was fascinating because we've seen Kansas win with him or without him. I would just look at him, even though he's the best player on the team, as a added luxury. But Ari is clearly annoyed with the uncertainty of, is this guy going to be able to play? And even when he does play, how long is he going to be able to play for?
I mean, honestly, I'm kind of on Ari's side with this. If this was my team, I would be really pissed off, especially if I'm a donor or I am a alumni member. This would really drive me crazy because you're expecting you. Not only is this somebody you brought in, but the investment factor now. Like, I think that is something that we cannot overlook, because if you're paying somebody money and you're expecting them to come out there and be added value to you pursuing a national championship, and they're just deciding, hey, 5 minutes before a damn Big Monday game against Arizona, I really don't think I want to play. I have a real bad problem with that, dude. Like, that's ridiculous. And I think if you don't get out in front of it now, you're going to see this continually happen. And if you're going to have the next superstar come into Kansas and they're going to say, well, Darren got this, why can't I? Like, I just think you're opening up a can of worms that you don't need to get into. And to me, if you're coming there to play, I need you available every night that you can actually be available. I don't need you just checking yourself out for no damn reason.
The way that Kyle Whittingham did go down at Utah, where he named Morgan Scalley the coach in waiting. He clearly wasn't ready to go, though, Kyle Whittingham. It was 2 years since they named the coach in waiting. I think it's time, if you're going to name a coach in waiting, don't have this be a Jim Boeheim situation and end up just getting out there in a short order.
Mm-hmm.
With Utah pushing back, though, and showing basically Kyle Whittingham the door to go to Morgan Scalley, who's one of their own, right? He played, in the early 2000s and has been involved in the coaching staff in some capacity since 2007 in many different roles. Do you think Utah will end up regretting the decision to move off of Kyle Whittingham to go to Scalley?
I do. I mean, I hate this situation. I don't like coaches in waiting in general. The one situation that this always reminds me to, because it's my neck of the woods, is the Will Muschamp situation at Texas, where Mac Brown put him in line. Ultimately, he wasn't able to do it, and he left, and now he's back like multiple years later. But at the same time, I think that that's where you're kind of putting added pressure on the situation that I wouldn't want to do. I don't think the last few years of Kyle Whittingham's tenure there went down the way he would hope so. He was not a big fan of the transition coming from the Pac-12 to the Big 12. He was adamant about that, as long as the AD Mike Harlan. Also, I think when you look at not having quarterbacks available and putting so much in the Cam Rising situation and just the uncertainty there with the availability, I think that wore on people. I think that wore on fans. I think that wore on administration. And finally, like, how long are you going to sit there and let Morgan Stanley wait in the win? I wouldn't have done that personally. Like I said, I hate those situations. I really am interested to see how Morgan Stanley can react. How much more of a difference is he? Because I don't think he's going to be as good as Kyle Whittingham. I don't. And I think absolutely they're going to regret this, because Kyle Whittingham's going to go off. I think you see him have like I mentioned, I think Bryce Underwood's the best quarterback he's ever had. He's going to go and win a national championship at Michigan, and Utah's going to be pissed.
You think he's going to win a national championship at Michigan?
I think he is talented enough coach that he can put the talent there. He's already got the quarterback. You're going to build the trenches the way he can. He's going to have an elite defense. Yeah, I think he can win a national championship at Michigan.
Interesting. Now, I think the guy's a heck of a coach. And see, it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Whittingham went along with this coach and waiting stuff.
Right.
And you don't want a Boeheim, Mike Hopkins like situation where the guy is there for 15 years waiting, and then he's like, all right, I gots to go. So I think if you do the coach and waiting, you got to move on. And this could go one or two ways. Where I'm not saying that Utah is looking at it this way, but using my NFL background,
right,
is look, they had John Harbaugh in there. A lot of people thought Mike McDonald would eventually replace John Harbaugh. They kept on going with Harbaugh, right? The established, very good coach, just like how Whittingham has been there forever, established, very good coach, has won a ton of games there. McDonald goes to the Seahawks. They win a Super Bowl within 2 years. Now they're bringing in Jesse Minter. They're hoping is a carbon copy of Mike McDonald. Right. And look, it didn't work out for the Ravens so far, losing McDonald. So I feel as if they're trying to replicate a younger version of Kyle Whittingham and Morgan Scalley. But Kyle Whittingham, the fact that he was there since 2005 and saw many iterations of that Utah program, how replaceable is he? Like, I think it's easier to replace someone in the NFL,
right,
than I think it is to replace somebody in college football.
No, I think that's fair, but I also think like the advantage of Morgan Scalley being there is he's been there for so long. He knows everybody. I don't think there's going to be. I think it's going to be almost a seamless transition.
But what does that mean now in this new era of college football?
Exactly, that's the thing.
There is nothing that's the same.
And then also, like, what is his philosophy? Are you still going to be the defensive coordinator? Are you, like, how much input are you going to have on there? Are you going to stretch yourself too thin, like we've seen Dave Aranda do here in Waco? It's going to be an interesting situation that unfolds. And Utah already has so much pressure because they were talking so much shit about the Big 12 coming in, and they've just been a doormat. Like, they have been in, like, the expectations. I would be embarrassed if I was a Utah fan of how things have unfolded since they joined the Big 12.
Why?
Because, all right, think about this. You're in the Pac-12, right? You worked your way up to where you become essentially one of the faces of that conference. You're winning championships.
Yeah.
And then you come over to a league.
They won those back-to-back championships.
Back-to-back championships, right? And then you spent the whole time in this transitional period when you knew you were coming over talking down on the conference and talking about how we don't want to be with BYU again and we don't want to lower ourselves to them. And then you come in, dude, you have zero success on football. You have zero success at basketball. BYU's already playing for conference championships. Like, there's just so many layers there where I think if you're Utah, you kind of think you bit off more than you could chew. Like you're supposed to beat the Texas Tech, right? And you're irrelevant right now.
Well, can you call them irrelevant when they won 11 games last year?
I could say, all right,
but like they weren't competing for a national championship at any point. Don't get me wrong.
Irrelevant might not be the right word. Okay, irrelevant might be too strong, but their expectations, like the bar there, they're not meeting that.
Okay. I think it's early for that because they've been in the Big 12 for 2 years now. This is year number 3. Ultimately, the Morgan Scalley era is going to determine what they're going to be able to do. But you had to leave the Big 12. I mean, you had to leave the Pac-12 because the Pac-12 was folding and the Big 10 didn't want you. The SEC didn't want you. So the only landing spot really was the Big 12. Some other takeaways from Ari Temkin. I don't know about you. And there's always, because of the cult-like following with Coach Prime, there will always be defenders. I'm starting to see the tide turn a little bit. Where, don't get me wrong, all the best health-wise to Coach Prime. I like Coach Prime. I want him to work in college football. But now we're going on year 4. And what's been the highlight of the Coach Prime era? The first 3 weeks of the first year where they only ended up winning one more game down the stretch. They had Travis Hunter winning a Heisman Trophy.
That's the highlight.
Shador having a heck of a season. Like, those are 3 things which are very impressive at Colorado, but I don't see it getting that much better. I think the apex was that second season where Travis Hunter won the Heisman Trophy. I thought it should have been Ashton Genty.
Yes,
and then also, they won like 8 or 9. I think they won 9 games or something like that. Like, that's going to be the highlight.
No, it is. And like at this point, like I'm still saying, like, I'm surprised that he's even there. I think this is probably going to be his last year there, and I think he leans as the crutch on the health issues. And I know they're legitimate health issues. I'm not taking that shot at all. I know they're legitimate health issues, but I think that he uses that as a way to get out this season. I just don't see it getting any better. And you weighed multiple coaching changes at this point. And at some point, you got to take ownership and be like, I'm the only guy left in the room, and we're not getting better. So I don't know how he fixes it. I don't think they're going to find the money, but it is a weird thing where it's almost like the political landscape right now, where if you say anything bad about him, you're going to get attacked by the minions. It's ridiculous.
It is crazy how they haven't been able to find more money because there's so much slobbering in the media over Deion Sanders, like Coach Prime, excuse me. I
wonder how much of that is like, I don't know. Maybe I think a lot of it is like his approach to not being a people person and like not going out and engaging and stuff. Why do I want to go and invest money if he's not going to like spend his time to come in to my company and talk with me? Like, I think there's things there, and I understand why he does it.
With college football, and also the NIL, it's a bunch of bull crap because
it is.
Like in theory, it was supposed to be Garrett Ross gets money to go to a car dealership and do an appearance or to do a local like commercial at a burger restaurant.
Right.
It's just, all right, you can get me that number, we'll give you. It's kind of like what Steve Ballmer was trying to do with Kawhi Leonard with the plant company. Like, here's like your ghost sponsorship. That's what it basically is. And that's just the system. Now, one more thing. I know we didn't talk about this with Ari Temkin.
Yeah.
But Eric Morris at Oklahoma State, like, I thought he should have got a bigger job. But if you just want to talk about fit and how I used to view Oklahoma State, which was points, I don't know how good Oklahoma State is going to be this year in terms of football, but I think their offense is going to be a heck of a fun to watch.
Dude, I thought you couldn't ask for a better hire if you're Oklahoma State. And that's one where
good fit.
Dude, it's the most perfect fit. Baylor fans' ass are always going to be chapped because Eric Morris wanted that Baylor job. It was out there that he wanted it. They elected to keep Aranda. He goes to Oklahoma State. Dude, that is a perfect fit.
Oh, no, for Eric Morris and Baylor, I remember being almost smoky.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, hire me to be the interim athletic director.
For real?
I'll go give Eric Morris the check and say, you come over here. What I was going to say, that will be one of the great what ifs if Eric Morris goes on to succeed and Aranda's fired by the end of next year. If you just said, like, why didn't they just was there a president change happen at Baylor?
There wasn't the president change. You had the AD change.
Mac Rhodes.
Yeah, you had that happen. That's what led to keeping Aranda. But it all happened around the same time where Morris was becoming eligible.
But why didn't
now you're –
But, like, we see – I know it's different. And in theory, the AD has to hire, the football coach. But the president, for a decision that was that simple, like there's times in sports where like the NFL, where the owner hires the coach and then they hire the general manager.
Right.
It's kind of would have been like that. The president should have just swooped in and said, hey, Eric Morris, we want to keep you in the state of Texas. Come on over to Baylor. And it would have been have been perfect for Baylor. It
would have been ridiculous. And that's one where I think Oklahoma State, I think you see them make a significant jump this year. Well, I'm not saying like
they get back to what Gundy was.
Well, I don't think they're going to be that this year. I think you get to over 500. I think if you get to 7 wins this season, you are just blown away if you're Oklahoma State. And you're living ecstatic, dude.
And also, like, it was time to move off of Gundy.
Absolutely. Gundy should have been. I'm not a big Gundy fan, and this always comes from my perspective of the team I root for has competed for national championships in football. So I've never understood the holding on to Mike Gundy for 30 years just to be mediocre.
Well, he's a man. He's 40.
I've never understood that.
No, you know when he really – I know there was multiple instances through the years, but this is when I was out on Mike Gundy. Because like a lot of say it again?
When the quarterback left, when he couldn't get the save?
No. Well, Spencer Sanders, who ended up going to Ole Miss, and then he ended up being the backup quarterback anyway. That never made sense to me. No, Ollie Gordon, when he had the DWI, and then they show up to Big 12 Media Day, and he tries to diminish it. Like that story would have just gone away with the way that Gordon was handling it himself on his own, and Gundy just to something that's serious, like a serious thing, driving while intoxicated, and Gundy just put like gasoline on it made no sense. I said, that's when I said, okay, he's got to go.
But the worst thing about that though was that was not even a few months or a year after the Bob Huggins situation in the same damn conference, and you want to double down?
Yeah.
Like, that was mind-boggling to me.
But here's the thing, like, I'm not justifying at all what Ollie Gordon did, like, whatsoever. But, like, for playbooks to be run from a PR perspective,
right,
when no one got injured and he was lucky.
Yes.
For the coach then to say, when his running back was lucky, for him to basically say, oh, like he just had a few beers, I didn't have a few beers and it's like you're trying to get away from this. It's a recoverable situation because you're lucky it's recoverable, and you were just like, F it. I'm gonna just make this as if the running back is the victim here. Where the irony in the whole thing, the adult in the room, even though he made a dumb decision, was Ollie Gordon, because I remember, the way that he handled it, and there was like genuine remorse from him. But the coach just messed it all up and made it a bigger joke than what it needed to be. All righty, let's do this. Coach, player, and team. We'll go by conference that you're just fascinated to see how we're going to be talking by at the end of the college football season. We'll start in the SEC. I'll give you my coach, then we'll get your coach. We'll have a conversation about it. For me, it's Kalen DeBoer. I think Kalen DeBoer is a heck of a football coach. I still think he's a top 10 coach in college football. Took Washington to a national championship game. The first 2 years at Alabama, the first year the loss to Vanderbilt was bad. They still could have made the college football playoff, though. Then their quarterback, Jalen Milroe, was just abysmal up against Oklahoma. So that really screwed them. This year, I know they avenged the loss to Vanderbilt. They beat Georgia once again in the regular season, not in the conference title game. They lost to Oklahoma again. And ever since that loss to Oklahoma, because it was weird, like I remember when they beat Georgia, I said, okay, that's the same as what you did last year. Right. Now go show me you could be Vanderbilt. And they did that. I'm like, oh, there's the progress. I think a lot of people forgot about the loss to Oklahoma. And even though they avenged it eventually in the college football playoff where they beat Oklahoma, they just never looked like the same team after that loss to Oklahoma. Now you're in year number 3. You made the college football playoff. You won a game. You got embarrassed by Indiana. I got to see if there's a moment where we look at Alabama at this upcoming season, especially if Keelan Russell is going to be their quarterback, where you say, okay, they're getting back to their national championship contending ways.
No, I agree with that. I just think that like the expectations there are kind of a little funky for DeBoer. I think Alabama's going to be fine with him in the long run. My coach I'm keeping an eye on is Shane Beamer, because you have been here at South Carolina for I don't know how long now, at least a decade it feels like. And I think you've reached your max. I think the past couple, 2 years ago was the height of what you can see from South Carolina as a program. I don't see Lenore Sellers getting any better. I don't like the hire of Kendall Briles coming in over as your offensive coordinator. You still got Dylan Stewart over there, but what can he actually do? And to me, I've always been baffled by why that program isn't better. To me, you're in a peak recruiting area, and if Clemson can have success in that state, there's no reason that you can't at South Carolina. So that's one where I'm keeping an eye on, especially when knowing that he could have taken that Virginia Tech job and like had a hell of a lot more success there than he can at South Carolina. So I want to see what Shane Beamer can do this year.
You know what's crazy? It's funny. You said like you feel like he's been the coach there for a decade, and I go,
feels like it.
Has it really been that long? But I'm like, it probably isn't a decade. But if you would have asked me how long has he been the coach there, I would say 2018, 2019. 2021.
Really? Dude, it feels like, I'm telling you, it feels forever.
And here's the thing. I don't know. Like last year was bad. I don't know how much better a coach can do at South Carolina. Like they feel that in the SEC, they feel as if they're just a second tier team where they're good, but they'll never be a national championship contending. Like what Oklahoma did this past year, where they made the college football playoff, but no one was ever afraid of them. Yeah. That's what I think the apex would be for South Carolina. They haven't got to that point, but he was 7-6, 8-5, 5-7, 9-4, 4-8. I think that you're probably going to get like 7 wins out of them this year would be my guess. And that's where it is, where your bottoming out will be 5 wins probably. And then the most you'll ever probably have, maybe if everything clicks for you, is 10-2, 9-3, and you'll be out in probably the first round of the college football playoff. All right, let's go to player. I think this one's easy in the SEC. it's Arch Manning. There was no player that was more hyped heading into the season last year than Arch Manning. He didn't live up to the hype, but he played better at the end of the season. He has a few good games, and I know it feels like it's 50-50 right now. Half the people don't want to take the bait. The others are still saying, yes, he's going to be as good as advertised. The moment he has one good game, forget a few, one good game up against a legitimate opponent, like what we saw at the end of the season, boom, the Arch Manning, the Manning mania will be back. So I think there's a tremendous amount of pressure on what is obviously a make-or-break year for Sark, but also a make-or-break year for Arch Manning in college football.
I'm going with Sam Levitt because I'm not a big fan of Sam Levitt. I think he's kind of overrated. I think that a lot of the success he got from the year they made the playoff was really due to the running back, Cam Scatterbo. I think especially when you look at that game in Texas, the only reason they were even hanging around was because Cam Scatterbo just put them on their back. I think last year they brought in a running back that it wasn't near as good. The rushing attack wasn't near as good as what you could have with Cam Scatterbo, but that's not going to happen. But you still had Jordan Tyson there. You still had talent, and you just regressed. And then I don't like how his whole posse handled the move in the portal and the chasing the money. I understand going and wanting to play for Lane Kiffin. I think Ari brought up a good point with if you're a quarterback and you're trying to be developed, why wouldn't you just stay and work with Kenny Dillingham? His track record speaks for itself. But I think, honestly, that you're going to see Sam Levitt get a reality check, and I think he's going to be humbled in the SEC.
All righty, let's get to a team that's under pressure in the SEC. For me, I'll piggyback off you here. It's LSU. Lane Kiffin, the right hire, but a controversial one. I don't give you a grace period. You got your quarterback in Sam Levitt. You got a ton of talent at LSU. It's easy to win there. We've seen 3 coaches since 2000 win a national championship, 3 different coaches. It's go time right from the start. And even though I think he'll get more grace than what Brian Kelly did, because even though Lane Kiffin isn't like the most model human being, but his personality fits more with LSU than what Brian Kelly did. But it is go time instantly with the LSU Tiger family. Go Tigers. We'll see what spin Lane Kiffin will have. Maybe it'll be some hot yoga pose or something like that.
God, I'm already
Who's your
done.
team?
I'm already done.
You know what? I'm sick of your bitching. You're already done. You're an LSU fan that's won 3 national championships since 2000. You got a top 10 coach in the sport coming on in Lane Kiffin, and you're already done?
He gets on my damn nerves, man.
Oh, shut up and deal with it, you spoiled
he
brat.
better win. He better be in the damn playoff this year. Mine's Texas A&M because, I need to see I think that Elko is the perfect coach there. I think Mike Elko is the perfect. Like, if you print it out or blueprint a Texas A&M coach or create one, it's going to turn out as Mike Elko. That being said, can you make Marcel Reed better this year? You bring in another offensive coordinator. I just need to see him get over the hump and beat Texas, like win some of these big games. So can you do that in year 3? We'll see. But my team I'm watching is A&M.
It's amazing. A&M, and I know their schedule wasn't the strongest.
No.
But they did beat Notre Dame early in the season. Yeah. And A&M, with like a week left in the season, they had everything right in front of them. National championship dreams, a spot in the SEC title game. They lose that game to Texas. Then they lose in the opening round of the college football playoff to Miami in a game where it's not like Miami played all that great at College Station. That was a low-scoring game. If they just won that game up against Miami, and I know I'm saying we're looking at them completely different. But that wasn't the case. All right, let's go to the Big Ten. My coach is a guy that I know very well, and I like him a lot. Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning is a top 5 to 7 coach in college, top 5 coach in college football. I'll just say it. He's done a lot of good things at Oregon. When he was in the Pac-12 in the final year, lost twice though to Kalen DeBoer. DeBoer ended up going on to the national championship game where they lost to Michigan. Then the first year in the Big Ten, they win the Big Ten championship, had the 30-day layoff. They got smacked by Ohio State. Now they walked into the college football playoff this year with some pressure off because they lost to Indiana. They win that college football playoff game where they beat up on Texas Tech, and then they just get annihilated by Indiana. For Oregon now, Dan Lanning's a very good coach. Dan Lanning has his quarterback back in Dante Moore. You got DeCorian Moore there as well. Let's see if he can stay healthy. it is national championship or bust. Like Dan Lanning has done everything he could at Oregon right now, except win a national championship. And that's why I think there's not like pressure to lose his job, but there's going to be that narrative that starts to form. Are you just very good or are you great? He's got to prove to me that that team go win a national championship this year.
No, that's a good. Those are all valid points. My coach is going to be Lincoln Riley because nothing has gone as planned since he came out there.
Yeah. They had a better year than what people thought, though, this year.
No, they did. I'll give him that. And you hope that with having Maava back, that you can kind of build on that success. And it's weird though, if you go and look at his record, he's got a winning record while he's out there, but you just wouldn't think it because of his attitude. Like just
he doesn't win big games.
He doesn't win big games. He's an ass. Like, he's constantly on social media. His development of players isn't there. The defense sucks. Like, so what can you do? Like, how can you make yourself better as a coach? And to me, like, you've got to be relevant this year. You got to win or upset a couple of big teams on your schedule. Or to me, the seat needs to be hot out there in Cali.
And they did last year have a better season than what people thought. You get Maava back. And you'll get a full season with Maava. Their schedule this year for USC.
And then Duncan Notre Dame. I hate the way he's handled that too.
So their schedule this year. Do they have the? Oh, because their opening game it still says to be determined. So I don't know who they end up playing. I guess they got to add an opponent. They play Fresno State easy. They play the Louisiana Raging Cajuns easy. They play Rutgers easy. All right, their first game is in their first actual game, depending on what they do week one, which I'm not expecting them to add a juggernaut. They play Oregon.
Man,
I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna say if they're gonna win or lose, but they play Oregon. That's their tough game. Then they play Washington. Then they're at Penn State. Then they have Wisconsin. Then they play Ohio State. That's a tough game. Then they're at Indiana. Is that back-to-back weeks? October 31st, November 4th. They have a bye week in between.
Oh, they're going to need it.
Maryland, UCLA. Like, could they
Those are winnable.
Can they be 10-2 and make the college football playoff? I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's possible.
Like, it's not inconceivable if they beat the teams that they're expected to beat in Fresno State, Louisiana, Rutgers, Washington, Penn State, Wisconsin, Maryland, UCLA, and then whatever other game they schedule, that's 9. You then just got to win one between Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon. You win one. You're 10-2. You're Oklahoma in the college football playoff. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they'll have at least 3 losses would probably be my guess. All righty. Let's go. We just did coaches. Let's go players in the Big Ten. For me, it's Bryce Underwood.
Yep.
You get a legitimate head football coach in there. As we were talking about in Kyle Whittingham, he's going to have instantly better coaching than the bullcrap he had last year with Sharon Moore. I'm fascinated to see if Bryce Underwood, a guy that, like I've like to said, if you had RG3 and Vince Young get together, have a little nookie time and have a baby, a lot of people think the offspring's going to be Bryce Underwood. I got to see Bryce Underwood be the quarterback that a lot of people thought he could be when he did enter the Michigan World a year ago.
Mine's going to be a quarterback as well, but I'm going to ride with Josh Hoover. I think that when you have 3 quarterbacks
with the Hoosiers,
when you have 3 quarterbacks, I know
Hoosiers.
I like that.
That's good. Signetti, call me.
But like seeing like how he goes. So you had 3 quarterbacks transfer out of the Big 12 with him, Sorsby, and Levitt. So you're going to have that comparison naturally. It's going to happen. It's more so for people in the Big 12 landscape, but that's going to be a conversation. I think he can be the best quarterback out of them 3 and have the most success. But you're walking into a situation where you should have significantly better talent around you. You should have a better rushing attack. And can you go back to being – because one of the things that's always stuck out with me is I believe it was 2 years ago we had Sonny Dykes on at Big 12 Media Day. So he was talking about Hoover, and his eyes were lighting up. He was saying, this is the most talented quarterback I've ever coached in my life. So can you be that? I don't know if you can be that, but I think you have a good shot. I want to see what he could do up there this season.
I had a good moment once with Sonny Dykes in that Big 12 championship game where it was Kansas State who beat them.
Yeah.
And TCU still did go on to the playoff.
That's a hell of a game.
I forget that they didn't hand the ball off to Duggan. Like, they didn't give the ball to Max Duggan at the end. where he could have just ran the ball in, and that I think would have won him the Heisman actually, because it ended up going to Caleb Williams. If Duggan would have had that touchdown, they would have got that win. I think a lot of voters would have put Duggan, who ended up being a final set at 1. And I brought it up to him the next year, where I'd in the offseason, we had him on. Like, all right, coach, great season, but I still can't get over what happened in that Big 12, Big 12 championship game. So anyway, my team, we already went through it, so I'll save some time here. My team was USC. Who's your team in the Big 10?
My team is Wisconsin, and I know that's going to be really weird.
It's not, because Luke Fickell has been a disaster.
He's been a disaster. He should have been fired this year, but yet they did the same thing that Florida State did with Norvell, and they did the same thing Baylor did with Dave Aranda, where they said, well, we're going to bring you back. We're going to run it back. We're going to throw even more money behind you to see what you can do.
Yeah, but who are the players?
Exactly. Who are the players?
At least there was a thought of DJ Lagway. Who are the players at Wisconsin?
Dude, he has
Don't jump around to that.
Nobody up there. That was good. He has nobody up there. Like he's supposed to be a quarterback whisperer. Every quarterback he's brought up there has failed. It has not worked out. Like, what can you do? And with what Indiana did last year, if you are completely irrelevant again, there's no saving your job.
Luke Fickell was a guy that when he got, like how we said Eric Morris was a perfect fit for Oklahoma State. When Luke Fickell ended up getting the job at Wisconsin, I thought he would have got a bigger job when you take Cincinnati to the college football playoff. But I would have thought like he would have got. I know he was the interim at Ohio State, and that's his school. But you would have thought like Ohio State, Notre Dame, like one of the like big time schools, like Wisconsin. Very good football program, big name, but I wouldn't call them a big time football program anymore. But that was a fit there. We're like, all right, Fickell probably goes there, and maybe they never win a national championship. Maybe they never win the Big Ten, but they should be like a 9-win team year in and year out. And wow, the lack of life in that program under Luke Fickell is just stunning to me. And that was a good one that you bring up. All righty, Big 12, my coach, under pressure, it's Coach Prime. Year 1, they won 3 games right to start, then 1 win down the stretch. Year 2, they did have the Heisman Trophy winner in Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. Last year, they lose both of them, and the program doesn't look all that well. I think the tide will turn nationally on Coach Prime if Colorado is going to be as bad as I think they're going to be, and that's probably like 5 wins at most this year.
No, that's a good one. I'm riding with Lance Leipold at Kansas because, dude, you took him. He's been there since 2021. He's taken them to levels that in my 41 years, I never thought Kansas football could be. Like ever, dude. And you've got you have a whole new facility upgrade with your stadium. You have boosters excited. And then I know a lot of this falls on the injuries around Jalen Daniels, but at the same time, like
he's
really,
still
Jason
there.
Bean, I know. Man, Jason Bean saved their ass, dude. Like 2 years ago, he really came in and saved them. But like the way it's plateaued and the way people are just going like completely out on him, like this, to me, you either got to be like 8 or 9 wins this year, or you're gone if you're Lance Leipold.
Holy shit. I know he's had a bunch of injuries.
Dude,
he's still there?
Yeah.
Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is going to be his 7th season of college football.
Is he still there?
I think he is there, right?
Let's see.
He better be. Like, how did that? As of early 2026? Yeah.
Yeah, he's still there.
What the?
Dude, so yeah.
Like you're saying Jalen Daniels, I was about to say, oh yeah, the quarterback's been hurt. And then I'm like, wait, is he still there? Oh my God.
Yeah, dude.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Him and who was the guy at Virginia? I think it was Virginia Tech, Kenyon Drones or something like that. Kyron Drones. Yeah. He's still at Virginia Tech. But I don't think he's been around as long as Jalen Daniels. 1, 2, 3.
Baylor,
this is going to be his 5th year. Yeah, Baylor, and then 3 years at Virginia Tech.
Yeah,
it's amazing. We should have been great college athletes. We could have. We could have just hit the transfer portal a few times and get all this NIL crap.
Yeah, we've been good.
All righty, let's go to players in the Big 12. Mine's going to be Brendan Sorsby staying over. And, obviously just go. And Leipold obviously, too, stayed. A lot of people thought he was going to go. He stayed, so that was a big thing. But Sorsby coming over from Cincinnati, going to Texas Tech. They got to go now, finish the job, get back into the college football playoff with all the money. They lost a lot on defense. Rodriguez, Bailey's going to be a top 10 pick in the draft. Sorsby, he was good last year at Cincinnati. Now can he go be great at Texas Tech?
No, that's a good one. I'm sticking with the quarterback as well. I'm going DJ Lagway. We talked about it earlier with Ari. I think Ari pretty much summed up the DJ Lagway saga. But one interesting note is the other day Smokey had him on. The health issues have always been, or really like the past couple of years, have been the biggest concern with him. He claims to be the most healthy he has been since high school. We will see. But like Ari mentioned, it was never the quarterback that was the issue for Baylor. It was the defense. So his running game is not going to be near as good as what Baylor had last year. The receivers, I don't think, are going to be near as good. You lost Michael Trigg. Your tight ends aren't going to be near as good. He's going to be asked to carry a lot, man.
My team to watch in the Big 12 is going to be Oklahoma State. And we've been talking about with Eric Morris and Drew Mestamaker. I don't know how good they're going to be, but I think bare minimum their offense is going to be fun to watch.
Yeah.
And I heard he was on with Smokey and friends the other day with Paul and Craig. But you look at their schedule, they played Tulsa, tough game against Oregon, Murray State, West Virginia, UCF, Houston, Colorado, Iowa State, Kansas State, Texas Tech, Arizona State, and KU. There's only like 2 games you're really shivering in your boots for. And that's Oregon and that's Texas Tech. Everybody else, I'm not saying you're going to win those games, but it's not as like, oh my goodness gracious, in the Big 12, you can't win those games. So who's your team to watch in the Big 12?
I'm going with Kansas State because you bring in Colin Klein coming back in.
I want to keep – I know he's Colin Klein, but I keep on want to call him Calvin Klein.
Calvin, yeah. Maybe he can get an ideal as a coach. So I think you bring him in. That's going to be good. You're hoping to kind of rekindle the aspects that Bill Snyder left there. At the same time, though, like what can you do there's no reason that Kansas State shouldn't be competing for Big 12 titles or be in the top tier year in and year out. It's inexcusable if they can't be, and he's got to get them back to that. So I'm interested to see what they can do this year.
All righty. Let's get to the ACC. I think this one's easy. Coach to watch, it's Mike Norvell. He's getting another year. I know Gus Malzahn just ended up retiring, but this seems like this is going to be the last-ditch effort, and we're going to see what happens.
I'm kind of right there with you. I'm going with Dabo. Pretty much the same thing. Like, who are you? Do you still even want to coach anymore? I don't like bringing Chad Morris over as your offensive coordinator. I think that's a step down from Garrett Riley. But the way that program has just kind of fell apart and his inability to adapt to reality, and when he does, it bites him in the ass. That's the irony of it. Like, who are you? Are you even wanting to still do this in the modern era? I need to see that from Dabo.
Just a quick correction. Jalen Daniels now out of eligibility.
Okay. I was wondering about that one.
I was sitting there and I'm like, there's no effing what. Like, I know this sport's stupid now, but he is out of eligibility.
Okay,
I would
good.
say if he somehow got a 7th year,
Yeah,
who knows in these court systems?
Yeah,
it could get reversed next week. But yeah, he did declare for the draft.
Okay.
Player to watch in the ACC. For me, it's Darian Mensah. I think this kid could win the Heisman. Cam Ward, Carson Beck, we've seen them transfer over. He stays in the ACC where he just won, I know you could say, a conference championship. It's technically true, but didn't end up going to the college football playoff. But we saw what he was able to do at Tulane with Summerall. Then he goes over to Duke with Manny Diaz. And now he's going to Mario Cristobal with the U. And you do get Malachi Toney back. So Darian Mensah is my player to watch in the ACC.
I'm going Kevin Jennings at SMU because you've seen good Kevin Jennings. You've seen bad Kevin Jennings over his years there. But I think this year with Rhett Lashley and kind of how they've addressed things in the portal, I think you see a breakout season from Kevin Jennings. I don't think he's necessarily going to find himself in the Heisman contention, but he's going to have the ponies compete for an ACC championship.
And I like Rhett Lashley, too.
He's a damn good coach, dude.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised. I'm surprised. There's a lot of coaches, right, with the schools near and dear to their heart that ended up staying. I was surprised Kenny Dillingham stayed, and I was surprised that Rhett Lashley stayed.
Dude, Rhett Lashley is sitting on a gold mine. Like, him going to Arkansas would
But that was his school.
No sense. I don't care. I do not care. That's a worse job.
Well, sure. I would not have gone to Arkansas. And SMU is a school that is on the come up. I saw today that they're playing 2 games, I think, at Jerry's World.
Yeah, they're playing Oklahoma and LSU.
Is that both this year?
No, it's
separate years.
It's in the next couple of years. That's
okay.
where they're going to play them. Yeah.
So like Lashley and sometimes, right, like Matt Rule said this to me. Now, like he looked back at the Carolina situation. He was like, all right, I got offered an NFL job. Like, obviously you got to take it.
Right.
But Baylor was a really good fit for him.
Yeah.
And like he looked back at it, I think it was Gary Patterson who said, oh, like when you're at a place that you love, don't just leave just to leave, because like, hey, Baylor was a really good fit for you, just like how TCU was a really good fit for me. I think that's the way that the story did go. And, you know, could Matt have gotten the Penn State job this year? Absolutely. Yeah, and that's his home. And that was his school where he walked on and you know, played for Joe Paterno. But he felt like Nebraska was what Baylor was for him years ago. Now you got to start winning football games, though, at Nebraska. All righty, my team, you talked about the coach. Now I'll talk about the team. It's Clemson. Because last year, man, I have been a Dabo criticizer. Like you ever see from what's the movie with Harold and Kumar? You're a hypocriticizer.
Oh,
I was a Dabo criticizer, and for some reason, because I had this whole theory, you don't need to be good. You don't need to be great to a national championship anymore. You just need to be good. Like look at what Ohio State did 2 years ago. They weren't great, but they were good and they won it all. I thought Cade Klubnik and Dabo were just going to be good, and they were going to have a monster season. And people were shocked because I've been shredded every way you can on these Clemson message boards because I talked about how Dabo's stubborn and how he's arrogant. And I was having these takes like 3-4 years ago about Dabo Swinney. And then I finally said, you know what, Dabo, I'll let you love me again. I'll let you hold me tight and feel all warm and fuzzy and comfortable. Right? Like, I want to be loved by Dabo again. And that program stunk. Oh, and it's not like I get it. The ACC had Miami end up going to the national championship game and almost beating Indiana. But that is not a murderer's row conference. That is not an impressive conference. That is not a conference that is this great conference. I got to see if Dabo could go win the ACC again. So I think there's a ton of pressure on the Clemson Tigers.
I'm going Virginia Tech, man. Because you bring in James Franklin, I think that's a really good fit for him. Yeah. I think that if he has the type of success and consistency that he had at Penn State, he could be a lifer at Virginia Tech. You don't even
need that consistency.
No.
Just have like every 3 years you win 9-10 games. Double the statue.
Dude, I think that he's the type of guy that, given his track record, that he can get the people like excited again. I think he could get the donors involved, and I think he could get. I like the quarterback that he got in, that he got in the transfer portal, the kid that he had at Penn State, the backup. I think that is going to be a really good fit for him. And I think that he can make Virginia Tech, I would say, not like national championship contenders, but he can make them relevant in the grand scheme of college football again, like they were under Michael Vick.
I can't stand James Franklin.
That's perfectly fine.
3, 4, 5 years ago, I was on him. This guy doesn't win the big game.
He doesn't.
Eventually, Penn State fans are going to get tired about him. I called him Participation State University. I was right. But him going to Virginia Tech,
it's totally different.
Total fit. You don't have to be great. You just got to be good. There is no doubt in my mind that he will eventually win an ACC championship at Virginia Tech. All righty, that will do it for the Zach Gelb Show. Actually, you know what?
You want those videos?
We do have videos. But hold on. Don't we have a poll question today?
Let's see
that Andrew Valade did come up with the Tyreek Hill? I'll watch some video on Wild Turkey. Where will Tyreek Hill play next? 49% say return to the Kansas City Chiefs. Then 26% say join the Buffalo Bills, 13% say the Jets, 12% with the Los Angeles Chargers, and I'm with the majority that it is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. How about those Chiefs? They're getting the band back together. They already brought back Eric Bieniemy as the offensive coordinator. They'll figure it out with Travis Kelce. And I think because of the familiarity that Mahomes has with Tyreek Hill, and Tyreek probably wanting to go back there to right the wrong where they won 2 championships without him, and I don't know if it's going to work coming off the knee injury and all that stuff. I do believe that Tyreek Hill, the Cheetah, will be going back to Kansas City. But if it's not Kansas City, then the Jets, the Chargers, or the Bills. I'm going to say the Chargers. Warm weather, Harbaugh, Ladd McConkey needs a compliment to him for Justin Herbert. If it's not the Chiefs, I'll say the Chargers, but I do believe that he's going back to Kansas City. Now, before we let you run, we're going to end you on a fun note today. You got to watch this video. This is a delivery man and an encounter that he had with not one, but 2 wild turkeys. Watch this. All right. I got something now. No, I gotta get back. Yo, better back up. Jesus Christ. I'm 40 years old. I can't be dealing with this. God damn it. One more. What? Maybe crazy. Yo, yeah, you're telling me I've been chasing him for 5 minutes. What do y'all want? Deuces. Deuces. I have a few takeaways from this video, Garrett. Here's my first takeaway. Why even get out of the car? Like, he ran there and made it back. I know he has one more package. Why get out of the truck again?
I think he was enjoying it. I think he was enjoying the thrill of the chase. I think he was just faking it until he made it, man. I think he really enjoyed that. Or else just drive up. Just drive up.
Is there an animal that you're afraid of? That's like a bizarre. There's one animal that I'm afraid of that would be bizarre.
Okay, this is gonna sound weird. Cows. I was chased by a cow as a child.
Moo.
Up a tree. It was what I've come to find out as I got older was it was a bull separated in a pasture for a reason, and he chased me up a tree.
Was it a cow or was it a?
No,
bull?
it was a bull. But ever since that happened, I don't mess with cows. I hate them.
The rodeo was here in New York City at Madison Square Garden, and I had behind the stage access, and I got to meet all the bulls. I interviewed the bulls. There was a lot of bullshit going on during that interview, but I kid you not, I got to see all the bulls.
Oh, I know.
I would. That's something I would not do.
What about
Skunks?
you? Skunks. I had an incident with a skunk. Yeah,
I go to the Poconos a lot. There's a lot of skunks. I have avoided ever getting sprayed by a skunk, knock on wood, but I have seen bear before, no problem. I'd rather see bears than skunks. I know that sounds crazy.
No.
But I have been 5 feet from a bear, less panic than 5 feet from a skunk. I'd rather get mauled by a bear than have to go bathe in tomato juice because that skunk got me good.
No, I totally understand that.
All righty. Yeah, you smelled a little bit like skunk, by the way, at the Super Bowl. I was trying to figure out what that was.
That was for different reasons. That was different purposes.
All righty. This is Zach Gelb Show on 365 Sports. Big thanks to Garrett. Big thanks to each and every one of you for tuning on in. Big thanks to Ari Temkin. We'll be back tomorrow right here live at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central Time. YouTube.com/@365SportsYT. Subscribe. We will catch you tomorrow from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 to 3 p.m. Central right here on 365 Sports. I'm Zach Gelb. I'm out. Bye-bye. Peace.